Constitution, which is what we all swore to uphold, then one thing that is vital that we can't argue about is the only people that should be voting in federal elections are true American citizens. That is clear. And so what the president is doing and what we're wanting to do is make sure that those individuals are the only ones voting.
Welcome to the next generation of warfare, psychological warfare. In modern conflict, the mind is a potent weapon. Discover General Michael T. Flynn's groundbreaking guide, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Unlock tactics, strategies, and the mindset to navigate this cognitive battlefield that we all find ourselves in. Equip yourself against manipulation and emerge unscathed. Unleash your potential. Order now.
Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, June 16th, 2026. This is Just Alpha 2.0, or aka part 2 of Just Alpha from last night's Monday night show, which again is probably going to become a thing because I like it. Some of the things that we're going to be covering tonight, and because we do have a timeline, because we gotta be done in time for DEF CON, which starts at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So we got about just under 2.5 hours, if my math is mathing right. Somebody can help me out with that. So one, election war incoming. I have zero doubts about that now. Gain of Fauci, we're going to be talking about that. Sentient plasma beings. That part is going to be a very fun part for the show. And then a cool little video to exit us out as we get ready to jump into DEF CON tonight. So, but before we do that, you guys know I come from a background where we got to throw weapons over our shoulders. We had them slung across our chest, and sometimes we had these weapon systems on our hip or on a drop leg holster. I got to be a part of some great careers within the military and the Marine Corps and law enforcement here in Southern California. And one of the things that people continually just underestimate is their sights. MCG Tactical, folks, you see that QR code up on the screen if you're watching on Rumble. Precision gear, unmatched, performance always. Most people don't realize a bad sight is holding them back. You blame your aim, your breathing, your trigger pull, when half the time it's your glass. And if you do have issues with those other things, then having bad glass is just going to exponentially make those problems worse. That problem, MCG Tactical set out to fix with the Stinger combat sight. They took holographic targeting technology, the stuff that used to carry a price tag most shooters couldn't justify, but we still spent it, and built it into a sight that's fast to acquire, dead simple to run, and locked in the moment you bring it up. No fiddling, no hunting for your dot. You look and you're on target. Now, here's the part you want to hear. Comparable sights sit around $600 or more. This Stinger is built with the same mil-spec standard, but through a deal with MCG Tactical setup for this audience, it's now landing under $200. Now, here's the part you want to hear. Comparable sights, and I said that part again. Sorry, I'm excited. And for my listeners, they're taking another 67% off and covering shipping, a deal you won't find on their website. You got to do that QR code. You got to hit that link that's in the live chat or that link that's down in the description. Scan the QR code on the screen or go to mcgtac.com/alpha. That's mcgtac.com/alpha. That's where this deal lives. Fair warning, though. This kind of pricing doesn't stick around, and they're already burning through the inventory. If it's in stock when you check, that's your window. Again, folks, get good glass. If you're someone who understands the value of a weapon system in your home for protection, or you're someone that understands the value of a weapon system when you're out on a sport or a hunt, then you don't ever want to go with stuff that's not quality. This is quality. So again, the limited Stinger is selling fast. Lock yours in before it's gone. mcgtac.com/alpha. Again, take a screenshot of that QR code. And then our next affiliate sponsor partnership is something that you guys know I live by, my mushroom food. And we'll come back in the showtime.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
You know, I love me some Pet Club. A 2-year relationship with them right now. And more of you are getting it. More and more of you are sharing the stories. I see you guys sharing the information with your friends in the chat, and that's much appreciated. Folks, nothing changes if nothing changes. Another thing, I hope you guys notice the new thumbnail graphic and a little background that you'll probably see here. Some cool, we're going to evolve the Just Alpha show a little bit. It's always going to be around, but I enjoy it, and I just wanted to change some things up. So hopefully when you guys do see it, you'll appreciate it. So with that, let's get into tonight's show. Right out of the gate, I showed you have Secretary Mullins from the DHS come out and say elections need to be for American citizens. You've had, counterpoints from the left going out there, putting out videos. Yeah, you had, I actually think I even have the clip tonight. Banta from here in California. That's essentially saying Republicans are trying to get only Americans to vote. Those aren't his exact words, but that's literally the message that he's conveying. What does this mean? Especially when we go on the heels of last night's show with investigations coming into Waltz, his attorney general, investigations coming into Governor Newsom and his wife and affiliates from Newsom's mouth himself. You see what's popping off in Georgia and other, counties and states around the country, all surrounding elections. What does this mean? This means the good guys and the bad guys on our path to this come midterms. Yeah, I saw Warhamster, Mark Elias, gaslighting has gone off the charts. Absolutely. And he took a loss out there in Florida a few days ago. And that's awesome. So if we know that these two pathways are coming to a point of conflict, what is that going to look like for us, the American people? Well, there's a couple of things, and this is going to be an evolving assessment the closer and closer we get to midterms. But one thing that I am absolutely confident in is that there's going to be a election war. I'm not talking war as in, tanks and artillery and airplanes and bombs like that. I'm not talking that kind of war. I'm talking about the deep state is going to use whatever remnant of bad guys it has left, and the good guys are going to continue to take them off. But there are concerns within this stuff. Sticking with Secretary Mullins here, we know that a lot of bad people came into this country through Biden's open border policy that they created. And we know that the current FBI and military and our Customs and Border Patrol, our guys are doing their best to target these people and remove them. I think part of that is why we saw such an aggressive attack at the cartels right out of the gate from President Trump, because these are the ones that are ultimately getting their people in here. So with that, let's get into this conversation. Got a couple of headlines that I want to just get us in some general news, to get us warmed up, get our brains flowing, get us all on the same frequency. Here's some good news. HHS reports, thanks to the leadership of POTUS and Secretary Kennedy, 475 beagles are being freed from a breeding facility that supplied dogs for animal testing. And if you guys remember the horrific images related to Fauci and beagles and what was happening to those poor little pups, this is absolutely something that is going to warm your heart if you're somebody that likes our four-legged friends. So very, very cool. What could be even more cool and more heartwarming than 475 beagles being freed? This next one's going to hit you in the heartstrings. U.S. Marshals, 35 missing children from Massachusetts recovered during U.S. Marshals-led operation ahead of the FIFA World Cup. 35 kids, folks. 35 children saved. Everything's important. We're in a fight for our republic. I get it. We're in a fight for humanity. I get it. We're trying to secure our elections. I'm absolutely behind that. But one of the things that moved a lot of us in the beginning of this fight was that old hashtag save the kids, right? And one thing, and I'll be talking about this more next week on Monday, is we have a very, very aggressive government right now when it comes to targeting traffickers and saving children. And we are seeing unprecedented numbers in both apprehensions and arrests and kids that are being located, recovered, and saved. That alone should just get you absolutely motivated. Let's keep going because we don't have a lot of time tonight. Storm News reports mass arrests have been reported. The DOJ has charged 324 defendants, including 96 medical professionals across 50 federal districts and 12 state attorney general offices in connection with healthcare fraud schemes involving over $14.6 billion in alleged losses. Again, this administration. And what does that do? All this fraud is what affects the prices you and me pay for when it comes to medicines, when it comes to treatment, when it comes to doctor's visits, all these things. And what do we see? Again, this administration's not just targeting traffickers and saving kids. They're not just saving beagles and the animals. They're going after the people that exploited the medical industry at the cost of you and at the cost of our family members' health and sometimes even their lives. And these people are being held accountable for it. Something that the deep state and all their operatives have deployed on social media very aggressively since Trump took office last January. Where's the accountability? Where's the accountability? Here we have it. We're having accountability. But these very same people that have tried to subvert our president and his administration don't want to acknowledge these things. But this information, I'm going to put it in front of you. Let's keep going. Mario Nafal puts Ted Cruz, dark forces in the U.S. are trying to break the Israel alliance. Now, if you saw last night's show, what was one of the video clips that we had? And yes, most definitely, I am on YouTube right now. YouTube doesn't get the hangout time with the intro music and all that stuff. just because of some of the rules that YouTube has. But I try to get it in and started during that trailer video. So, but yes, we are on YouTube at the AlphaWarrior Show. But sticking with this, last night, Senator Cruz comes out and we shared that video of him talking about the false flags. Now, let's take a listen to this video.
Today, more than ever before, the U.S.-Israel alliance and friendship is under assault. It's under assault from forces in the United States that would try to break that friendship. I think that's profoundly dangerous. America is friends with Israel because it is unambiguously in America's national security interest to be friends with Israel. Israel is fighting the enemies of America. Every Hamas terrorist that Israel kills, every Hezbollah terrorist, every IRGC terrorist, makes America safer. We stand with Israel because standing with Israel makes Americans safer. And when the Ayatollah chants death to Israel and death to America, he means it. And those voices in American politics that want to engage in appeasement are profoundly undermining U.S. national security.
Now, you probably saw that little APAC sticker in the bottom corner of that. That's always going to be concerning. But here's the thing. People are trying to take control of the narrative of something that's coming regarding this peace deal that's happening between the United States and Iran. Let me kind of unpack this a little bit. Yesterday, we played the video of Ted Cruz talking about false flags that we need to be aware of in this country. I understand that. And now he's talking about there's dark forces that are trying to undermine this peace deal. That's true. We know that that's true. We know that that's happening. But if you look at the way Senator Cruz delivers this message, he's delivering this message like Israel's on board with the United States in this peace deal. And if you're listening to some of the stuff that Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying, I read that very long speech that he gave last night that was translated or transcribed for us. If you look at the actions, especially with some of the people in the Knesset over there in Israel and their position, talking about a regime change, it doesn't seem like the government, not talking about Bibi, but that the government of Israel is aligned with Trump with what he wants. Things like what's going on between us and Lebanon is going to be between Israel and Lebanon. Well, that's kind of counterintuitive to Trump and his talks with Iran. You have Iran that's saying, hey, yes, we are going to make sure that this includes, Lebanon. This is going to address, Israel. So even though Lebanon and Israel are not formal signers of this peace deal between Iran and the United States, it's still a quasi proxy variable. And so what do I mean by this? It's when we talk about like Hezbollah or the Houthis, these are proxies of Iran. You've had these very same people that have argued with us that when was the last time Iran went and bombed anybody? Because they want to identify, they want you to use the title of Iran because it's going to be very hard to find something recently. But they never want to talk about the attacks that Iran has done on the United States or allies to the United States or people that are, neighbors in the Middle East region through proxy, because then that changes everything. Because just in the last year and a half of Biden's administration, you had the Houthis that fired over 300 missiles at United States military and civilian vessels. You don't want to talk about that. That alone warranted the attack that we had against Iran. But again, to bring it to the point that I'm trying to make, is Israel is going to be checked by Trump. Hezbollah and all the other proxies is going to be checked by Iran. Now, why does this matter to what Cruz is saying on there's forces that are trying to undermine this? Well, Iran, on paper, we assign it the proxies of Hezbollah, the Houthis, etc. But we know it's a deep state apparatus. We know that that's who controls the Houthis. The IRGC, who's it controlled by? The deep state, the cabal. So when we look at what's going on here, what we're really saying is this peace deal is trying to be subverted by the cabal. And so now what you have to understand is, are we talking 4 different entities? Israel, the United States, Iran, and the cabal? Are we talking, just 3 entities, Israel, the United States, and Iran, and everybody's got a little bit of the cabal? I don't know exactly what that structure looks like, but what I do know is that the moves that the Israeli government, the IDF, Mossad, Unit 8200, those moves align more with the intentions of what the cabal wants, which is ongoing conflict. Each one of you can make use your own discernment to decide whether you want to say that, the Israeli government and the cabal are in unison, or whether they just have the same goals and therefore, they're kind of pushing each other's agendas. That's for you guys to decide. The point being made is Trump announced that he is going to not just release the peace treaty, but that he is going to read it word for word so that nobody, including mainstream media, can take it out of context, which is what's been happening pretty much the last 24 hours. So all this is kind of, it's a lot, and I get it, and it's confusing. But I just want you guys to understand that, remember, Cruz is trying to take control of a narrative that he anticipates this peace deal is going to fall through. It's not going to happen. And he's trying to make it seem that Israel is trying to help make this peace deal follow through, but they're not. So just keep that in consideration. I spent more time on it than I wanted to, but it's going to be important, especially here in the next couple of days. That being said, here's an example of that. This comes from N12 News. Chairman of the Together Party and former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett at a press conference, quote, "The countdown to regime change in Iran will begin the moment the government in Israel is replaced. Soon the people of Israel will elect new, dynamic, and determined leadership that will restore security to Israel." Again, if you go back to an article that I wrote, 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, following October 7th, I said, the conclusion of this is going to result in a regime change in two countries. And I specifically named Iran and Israel. People thought I was absolutely nuts for taking this position. But now you have this psycho, right, Naftali Bennett, that's coming out, and he's saying the exact same thing. And why is that? Because, again, we are talking about the deep state apparatus that is trying to maintain control of the IRGC and also trying to maintain control of either the whole of government or the portion of government, because I think they have lost some control of the Israeli government. And that's what he's talking about here. What he's talking about is when Israel has its elections in October, that they are going to put that extreme element into place in order to create the ongoing wars, because it's the whole greater Israel expansion, right? Which is just for people to understand, those moves are in conflict with the Israeli citizens. The Israeli citizens don't want that. If you go and you watch interviews with them, if you listen to the polling that Trump talks about, when Trump says, I'm polling higher in Israel than Bibi, that's because the people are aligning with Trump's ideology and his policy, which reflects what the United States is doing in Iran, which is trying to bring this to a conclusion. So when Naftali Bennett comes out and says that we're going to be more dynamic and we're going to accomplish and restore the security of Israel, what he's talking about is war. So with that, let's get into and bring it back home and get into our elections. Now it's war. Spencer Pratt, this is fire. This is, you guys tell me if you think Spencer Pratt is hanging up his hat and calling it quits.
Now that the campaign portion of my mission to save Los Angeles is coming to a close and I'm moving on to the next, more interesting phase, listen, I've spent a lot of time slaying everybody. I've ridiculed everyone on the roster, and I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take the chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. You think you can get rid of me that easily? I know a lot of dim-witted jerks thought I was in this for a grift, that I was going to roll up and leave town if I didn't get into City Hall.
It's just not fair.
Hey, morons, I didn't get in this for political power. I got in this to expose this corrupt machine, and nothing has changed. You enjoy your worthless meetings in City Hall.
Nikki, you have all this information. You're running for mayor. Show what you're really about, or get the fuck out of the race.
I'm going to be lighting you up every single day, and now I don't have to worry about offending CNN viewers. I don't have a campaign laws hamstringing me now. It's war. It's 0 hour for Los Angeles. Angelinos are now stuck with two morons responsible for all their problems, and they have to choose between dumb and dumber. Hey! That's not a choice. That's the machine protecting the machine. And now every problem that plagues Los Angeles because of these two corrupt communists is going to accelerate. And the city will tumble headlong into the abyss. You have no idea how many major developers, hoteliers, business owners, entrepreneurs have been texting me saying they're packing up and leaving town. More of your favorite restaurants will be shuttering. That means less tax revenue. That means the city has to cut services, more potholes, less firefighters, less police patrols, more criminals, more drug addicts terrorizing your communities.
And we haven't ended it.
You have no idea how bad things are about to get for this city. Look at this place already. Weeds growing from every crack and crevice, graffiti over every square inch of public space, garbage, drugs, feces, burned up dogs, burned down towns, abandoned storefronts. This city is a mess, and you're about to reward the arsonist who torched a place with 4 more years of destruction?
I know he's very bitter.
My goal hasn't changed. I've been laser focused on stopping these commie animals, and I will stop them. If you think we uncovered a lot of fraud and evil in the campaign, just wait. We have some recordings of one of your exalted candidates doing and saying something that would make her resign in shame. I was saving it for the general election. Go ahead and pick your demon, certify your choice, and then you get to see it. So Karen Nithya, ask yourself, is it possible that one of your employees may have a recording of you doing or saying something that would force you to resign in disgrace? Hope you sleep well at night over the next 5 months, because you know who hasn't slept well at all for the last 17 months? My mom. All my neighbors in the Palisades. All the moms who worry about their kids walking past drug addicts in front of their schools. All the business owners getting crushed in the LA economy, worried that they can't stay in business and feed their kids. Angelinos have been struggling for years now, all while corrupt politicians and fraudulent NGOs profit off the misery and fleece us for the tax dollars. Well, now we're flipping the script. I want all of you awake at night sweating and worried about 5 a.m. when the FBI blazers bust in the door, breaking open your office, because I assure you, they're coming. You think your election was going to stop me? If you want to stop me,
you're going to have to fucking kill me!
He got me fired up. Spencer Pratt put in a video how Californians feel. He described perfectly. We are tired of you stealing our country, stealing our state, giving it to illegals, taxing us, taking away our property, taking away the American dream from Californians, and it is done. And for those that have been saying for the last year now, they always say that, but nothing happens. Again, you had Newsom yesterday, and then today followed it up. I have that here in a couple of clips, saying him and his wife and their associates are under investigation by the DOJ. I'm not going to get ahead of myself because we're there. Shout out to Honest Abe 1A, who just gifted 5 subscriptions over here on the Rumble channel. Thank you for that support, and thank you for everybody that got to benefit for those memberships. And just to remind you guys, anybody that drops a super chat or Rumble rant at the end of the show tonight, I'll make sure to read those. So don't think that I miss them and that we're forgetting them. So let's keep going, because this is going to be very clip heavy when it comes to the elections. Elon Musk comes out and he puts, wow. Well, what's Elon talking about? Nick Shirley says, meet Doris. She lives in California and is registered as a 126-year-old who has voted in 51 elections, and she has no idea. California's voting system is so corrupt that by simply knocking on the door of the, quote, 126-year-old proves the election fraud. Take a look at this.
So how old is this person who's eligible to vote here inside the United States, inside the state of California?
126 based on the Secretary of State.
And this is Doris.
Yeah.
And now we're going to see if Doris is home. Are you Doris?
She's right here.
Yes.
Hello, Doris.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
We're just going through the voting rolls here, and we're just confirming anybody who's above the age of 100 years old. And right here it says you're 126 years old.
No, you got the wrong house. That's a lie.
Are you Doris Wood?
Yeah, but you got the wrong house. I'm Doris Wood, but you got the wrong place. That's the wrong information, all that stuff. No, that's wrong.
Oh, here, I can show you if you like.
No, it's just that it's wrong.
How come you think here in California they're just messing up on all these voting rolls here?
I don't know, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it says you voted in 51 elections, Doris.
No, not me.
Really?
I'm not no 100-something years old.
I know.
I said I wasn't.
I just want to make sure you're not 126 years old.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, it really does say you're 126 years old here.
No. Who did this Bill 126? That don't even make sense.
I know, that's what the Secretary of State says.
Well, the Secretary of State is wrong.
Okay, well.
Put it like this, I was born in 1940, so you figure that out.
All right, Doris. You have a good evening.
That's just one of so many. You think you kind of understand why Newsom is shaking in his boots right now? I want to go back to an old quote. They never thought she would lose. They have operated with the mentality and the arrogance of people that thought that Trump and Americans would never be able to flip the script and come for them. It's why they persecuted me. It's why they persecuted so many other J6ers. It's why they persecuted so many parents. It's why these states were literally doing genital mutilation to our most innocent children, paying doctors to do this. People that we know are brilliant minds. They went through med school, but would literally sit there and butcher the genitalia of kids because politicians that were tied to tyranny said, that's the way we're going to do it. And parents, if you try to stop us, we're going to say that you're not fit to be a parent. They never thought she would lose. Who's the she? Hillary Clinton. And she lost. And her husband, Bill Clinton, former president, if you remember, testified a few months ago. What do you think they said? Knowing the punishments and consequences for things like sedition, conspiracy, treason. Oh, they talked. When does the bird sing? We're going to get into that. Let's go to the next one. James O'Keefe. Media filmed actual election fraud happening in broad daylight on Skid Row in Los Angeles. The fraudster is facing 5 years in federal prison for her crimes. Take a look at this one. If I can hit play.
The woman in this California case, she had worked for 2 decades as a signature collector, according to the Department of Justice. In order for these signatures to work on the ballot petitions, different kind of political signature requirements, these people had to be registered to vote. But, you know, that is not often the case down on Skid Row, and that is where 64-year-old Brenda Armstrong would go down to. She was also known as Annika. Federal prosecutors say she would go down to Skid Row, find homeless people, get them registered to vote. About $2 to $3 a pop is what she would pay them, so then they could sign her petition.
The petitioner, Brenda Brown, hands cash money to the homeless person, not only for signing the California ballot initiative, but also as payment for them to register to vote.
Now, because you haven't registered, I need to register you so I can get paid too. I'm paying you guys, I need to get paid. Come on.
That is a federal felony. And it didn't just happen once. It happened over and over and over again. We personally witnessed and covertly filmed this happening at least 28 times over the span of our investigation. And that is just in Los Angeles.
Sometimes even suggesting her former homes and addresses to claim as their own. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon writes, false registrations undermine America's faith in elections, even more so when payoffs are involved. This Department of Justice is committed to ensuring that all U.S. elections are fair and free from illegal meddling so that Americans can accept the results with confidence. And Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche says such crackdowns on illegal registration and voting schemes is long overdue.
28 times just in their presence. This lady is in a lot of trouble. But guess what? And some of you may like this, some of you may not like this. She's low-hanging fruit. She's not a mastermind. She's somebody who said, the system's corrupt, and I'm going to make my bacon in the corrupt system. She, when she gets arrested, that still doesn't have the mass impact that we need. So even though she should get life for treason, she won't. She's going to get offered a deal. And that deal is going to be who taught you, who informed you, who assisted you, and give us the names of everybody else. And why does that matter? Again, because that goes into establishing a criminal enterprise, and a criminal enterprise is what you need to continue on with RICO. And we know that RICO is being played out right now. Let's go to the next one. The Skiff reports California ballot worker busted breaking into a locked cabinet involved in election fraud. A Shasta County election employee was caught red-handed breaking into a secured ballot cabinet copying sensitive documents to rig an election, compromising voter data. Election documents and materials were removed from the cabinet. Extra ballots were handed out by the employee. Unauthorized copies of these records were made, providing the copies to Shasta County Clerk and Register of Voters Clint Curtis. Alleged premature distribution of extra ballots, routine post-election reconciliation revealed discrepancies, suggesting a number of additional ballots may have been handed out to voters before Election Day by one employee. Sensitive voter data is now potentially compromised. Copies reportedly included names, addresses, dates of birth, phone numbers, signatures, and voter explanations for replacement ballots, as reported by the New York Post. Take a listen to this.
County supervisors have released new details about an incident at the elections office that happened during post-election ballot reconciliation on June 4th. That's last Thursday. The county says discrepancies were found, suggesting a small number of additional ballots may have been issued to voters by an employee before Election Day. The county also says the election records containing voter information were removed by another employee, copied, given to the Registrar of Voters Clint Curtis, and locked in another employee's office. The county says copies of documents that may have been included voter information like names, addresses, phone numbers, birth dates, signatures, or facsimiles were removed from the office by Curtis. And the county does emphasize that no original ballots or election materials ever left the elections department. It's been reported to the Secretary of State the county will not be initiating litigation.
So we wanted to make sure, and this was the important thing from the Board of Supervisors, who don't have jurisdiction over how that process happens or what happens in the elections office, but we want, as the Board of Supervisors, wanted to be sure that the public knew that, since we knew about a potential scenario regarding the integrity of the results, that they knew about that as well, and that is something that is as transparent as possible.
Again, if you don't think that we're coming to a point of election war, you probably haven't been watching this podcast long enough. Shout out to my boy CanCon over there. He reports convenient Los Angeles absentee verification website undergoing maintenance in the middle of the 10-day period to check and cure absentee ballots. I wonder if it has anything to do with all the folks saying that their ballots for Pratt haven't been counted. And again, this is some screenshots that he provided right here. Los Angeles County Register Recorder, County Clerk, and they're temporary unavailable. Francis, but my husband voted for you. His ballot was dropped off with mine at a drop box. I tracked mine. It showed that it was received June 5th. My husband's ballot has disappeared. Not only that, his information seems to have disappeared from the tracking and the registered voting websites. It's saying invalid credentials, waiting for an email response from the Secretary of State. I suggest everyone track their ballot to see if it was received. Mila Joy puts, my sister lives in Los Angeles. She's a Democrat, but voted for Spencer Pratt. I was with her when she dropped off her ballot in the mail weeks ago. We checked the day and it hasn't been received back. Are they just tossing ballots for Spencer Pratt? And the final one, this one comes from Angelita. My friend is a Dem who voted for Pratt, and this is her scenario as well. Now, if that's not bad enough, you literally have, I think it's over 10,000 the last time that I checked to see the numbers that were out there. I think somebody just put in the chat like 20,000 of these ballots that are being disregarded. In addition to that, you have thousands of people that are checking, people that are saying, I voted for Pratt. And what are they saying? That their signature was an error and that form's being sent back to them. So you have, and remember, Pratt he hasn't lost by very many votes. And you're way past that number of people whose ballots are missing or people that are receiving letters in the mail that, hey, you got to complete this because your signature didn't verify. Well, isn't California one of the ones that says you're not even verifying that shit to begin with because we don't check IDs? The house of cards in California is falling down, folks. And we know that Los Angeles, not Sacramento, but Los Angeles is the headquarters for the deep state in California. We'll talk about that more in a few weeks. Lindell TV puts, what you're seeing play out in California, it's embarrassing. Allison in the Know put, asked House Majority Leader Steve Scalise whether the election issues unfolding in California are demonstrating in real time the importance of the SAVE Act. We're going to get into that. And whether there was or has been any movement with Senate leadership on advancing the legislation. This is what he said.
Leaders, please, in light of the election circus happening in the state of California right now, isn't the Save America Act's importance being made clear in real time? Have you talked to Senate leadership about the status of Save America, or should we just consider it dead at this point?
We've made the point over and over again. It's critical that the Save America Act gets to President Trump's desk, and ensuring the integrity of our elections is paramount to American democracy. And what you're seeing playing out in California, it's embarrassing, but it's another example why you need to make sure we stabilize the elections.
Election war. Remember this. You guys know, if you've been following my show for a while, you know that I have said the Save America Act is not going to pass. Not because it shouldn't, because it should. That said, it's not the have-all, end-all, but it is a huge hit to the deep state establishment in our election systems, but more still needs to be done. But I said the reason Trump's been pushing it is because he needs this to be a word that's in every household. The Save America Act, the Save America Act. Even if people don't understand what it's about, he needs people to recognize that term. And it's for a reason, right? Everything's a psyop. And again, not going to get ahead of myself because we're going to get there, but let's keep going. Guitar Non 17, just phenomenal non-account, says FISA brings down the House. That's why the House wants it gone. If you followed the boards at any length, you know how important FISA has been in regards to that. Speaker Mike Johnson says 199 Democrats voted against a clean 3-week extension of the FISA national security law for political purposes. When the bill went down, they applauded. He gets community noted here, and it says 19 Republicans joined the 199 Democrats. Here's the thing, and there's a lot of, unfortunately, anons and alt media and citizen journalists. You guys have heard me talk about this on Q After Hours and some of the other shows. There are a lot of people that say, yeah, we need to go down with FISA. Listen, do I think FISA is bad? Hell yeah, I think FISA is bad. We saw how it was weaponized against Americans in violation of law. However, like Guitar Non says, FISA works both ways. The board's taught us that very clear. What does that mean? Well, do I want Trump, and this goes into something we'll be talking about DEF CON tonight, because the White House put out a post that I seriously think that they were watching Q After Hours. We'll see. But again, do I want Trump to shut down FISA now? Hell no. Because I want FISA to be used against the establishment. I want FISA to be used against the deep state. You guys heard me talk about this last night. I'm not going to, resubmit that argument again. You guys know my position. So these people voting against FISA is not because they're trying to do what's best for America. They're trying to protect themselves because they know they're going to get caught up. So remember that. Let's keep going. Eric Dougherty puts, holy crap. President Trump just said California Democrats are cheating like dogs after Spencer Pratt's loss. But then they called it for Steve Hilton to avoid an uproar. I do have this clip.
It's voted in favor of that. It's really a shame. And it's so bad for the country. You'd almost think they hate the country because they're not stupid people. You can't cheat like they did. And look at the election in California as an example. After a week, they determined that the kid who's leading and had all the mojo, all of a sudden he doesn't make the runoff. And then I hit them hard on that, but I started talking about Steve Hilton, who's a fantastic guy. And I saw them say it was going to be 2 weeks before they knew. And I started hitting them. It's going to happen to Steve Hilton, too. You got to watch. And they approved Steve Hilton very quickly. They didn't want to. There was too much heat on him. The only reason he got approved, he had all the votes he needed, probably to be first place. But the only reason they approved Steve Hilton, it was going to be 2 weeks. They said it. And then they approved him that night because the heat was on them, because they're cheating dogs. And you can't have a great country when that happens. That's why Los Angeles, that's why that state is in such trouble.
So I want you guys to think about something here. Do you think for 1 second President Trump didn't anticipate that they were going to cheat in the California elections? Of course he knew. We knew. We saw that they were going to cheat. We were very interested in the mechanism of how they were going to do that, knowing that we're all watching, right? They got to kind of do their best to try to change this up, although we didn't leave them a whole lot of room to adapt. So if Trump knew that they were going to cheat, was Spencer Pratt his deployment weapon to facilitate that cheat so that it could happen exactly how we all witnessed unfold. So then Trump could come out and do what he just said right now. Then I started pushing Steve Hilton. And just like that, they did it that night because the heat was on them. Was that a ploy to make sure that he got Steve Hilton into that governor race? Especially knowing that Newsom was probably going to get into some legal troubles in the very near future. I actually think Trump played that out to a T, knowing how that was going to happen, and still have this comeback against Tom, Ramen Noodle and Mayor Bass. And we're still probably going to see Pratt get into this. Green Ozone said, Pratt has a paper tiger. I'm telling you, when they said it was going to take 2 weeks, and they did. They said how long it was going to take, but they did call it for Steve Hilton. And why? Again, I think Trump, like he's been doing everywhere in this country and every theme of what we're fighting, I think he walked them into an ambush and they got taken that easy. Let's keep going because we're not done. Rep. Clay Higgins says a dangerous precedent has been set. Listen to the hour that he says that this goes down. That should definitely be concerning.
Tuesday night, actually Wednesday morning, about 1 in the morning here. D.C. It's been a long, long day. There's a lot going on, America. Pay attention to what your Congress is doing. We did get ICE and CBP fully funded. It shouldn't have been a fight like that, and it was accomplished in a dangerous way. We're going to have to restore full funding for ICE and CBP within the DHS appropriations process, which was blocked this year by Democrats, and essentially Republicans, we figured out a very procedural manner that we jumped through a lot of hoops to get ICE fully funded, including CBP and all of DHS, the broader DHS. So it's a bad precedent, let me say. But we had no choice this year. We had to do what we had to do in order to get law enforcement funded so we can enforce our laws and deport everybody that needs to be deported and do what we need to do to restore order to our country. But if we don't codify the policies that the Trump administration has successfully enforced, then as soon as Democrats get back in charge, whenever that happens, you know how the pendulum swings in this country. Whenever that happens, they're just going to open the borders again. And we'll be back in the same mess. So we have to get full border security legislation pushed through Congress. And let me tell you, I don't know how we're going to do it. It's going to be a hell of a fight. So watch what happens over the course of this year, because weak Republicans are going to get smoked out. They're going to start voting more and more with Democrats, and they're going to identify themselves for removal in November, and hopefully we get a more conservative Republican in their place. But it's a gamble, yeah, because you could end up with a Democrat in some of those seats. But let me tell you, it's a gamble we have to take, because some of these votes, vote by vote, on the one hand, some of us are barely saving the country and making some advances in some ways. On the other hand, some of these guys are quickly destroying our country. So wow. Okay, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I should say good night. I'm gonna keep you posted. Honored to serve. Oh.
So, a couple of things there. I like the "huh" at the end, simplify. He said they're going to get smoked out because they're going to start joining more Democrats in some of these votes. What does that tell you? He knows, or at least he has anticipation of what this game plan of what Trump is doing. Whether he's read in or not, I don't know. But what he's demonstrated to me in this particular conversation is that his assessment of what's going on, he's locked in because he's seeing what I'm seeing. And I can tell that by what he's saying, that they're going to be smoked out by the positions Trump is going to force them to be in with these votes. He's forcing them to get into the extreme positions that are a hard line. Somebody said Alpha's volume is low. I don't feel like it's low. It's showing the proper dBs. So let me know if I'm 5x5 with you guys. I can turn it up a little bit, but I don't want to blow out other people's ears if my audio is fine for everybody else. Just let me know if my audio is coming in 5x5. I do turn up the video clips audio because I know it's a headache when you're watching all these other podcasts and it's hard to hear the video clip audio. So maybe that's the issue there. But anyways, to continue, he says they're going to get smoked out. Here's the other part that he brings up. He says, we have to do this now. And what's the reason he gives for that? He says what I said last night. The Democrats, the establishment, the cabal, they realize they're getting the shit kicked out of them by Trump. Their goal right now is just to hang on as tight as they can to write out the Trump administration. So this way, like he said, when they get back into a position of power, they can go and just start unraveling all the stuff that Trump has been doing. So what did he say? And I think what he did here is he gave us a tip to not panic on certain things. He's saying there's certain things that we are going to acquiesce when it comes to them in these negotiations to pass other things that we have deemed, existential to our country, the border being one of those. I think he also, especially him ending it with Huya, right? He's going to go military there. I think he also understands that there is something, again, I'm not saying Clay Higgins is read in. I'm just saying the man is smart enough to kind of put together what we're putting together, that he's smart enough to notice that there is something else coming down the pipeline that is much greater than what we're just going to see from Congress and the normal flow of legislation and executive orders. I think he understands there's some shit coming down the pipeline, and I know Trump is already compensated for some of these things we're going to acquiesce to. And so we're going to give Trump the things that Trump highlights to us that he needs. These things have to get voted and passed. We're going to get behind those, even if we have to concede some things that us or Americans are probably not going to like, because Trump is highlighting these specific things for a purpose. This is my takeaway from what he said. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. I'm willing to hear your position. Leave it in the comments, because the live chat only lives for a few hours after the show, but the comments are there forever. Speaking of the show, if you like what I've been putting together and putting out there in my assessment analysis of things, the content is free. So whatever platform you're watching on, smash the heart. No, push the heart, smash the thumb, leave a comment, and share this out. We got a little over 1,100 people watching over there on Rumble, halfway to 1,000 over there on YouTube. I know it's a little bit earlier in the day, but we got DeathCon coming up later. Let's still try to get this audience as big as we can tonight. And if not, I hope you guys enjoy this while you're watching the replay. Michael Carbonaro reports Cash drops the hammer. Stated that election fraud is done under his watch. Make it happen. Free and fair elections everywhere. For those of you that are kind of new to the truth movement, Cash is a guy that is very aware of Q. And you can probably go out there and search some interviews where he was wearing some Punisher socks. So remember that as you listen to this.
But we also, at this FBI, even though we uncovered what we uncovered back in the House Intel days, I had to come in here and find rooms that they hid from the world. I had to come in here and find access on our computer systems in restricted and prohibited case files that they purposely put in places for no one to see and find. We have found all this information. We are working with our Department of Justice partners, and I am never going to let this go, because they not only have personally attacked the presidency of the United States and President Trump, but they tried to thwart our elections and rig the entire system. And that is not something that is going to stop. That is not something I'm going to allow on my watch. Right. But you just have to remember, they built this disease temple over 20 and 30 years. We've got all the evidence. I can announce on your show that we've got all the information we need. We're working with our prosecutors at the Department of Justice and their Attorney General Todd Blanche, and we are going to be making arrests, and it's coming, and I promise you, it's coming.
Am I the only one that heard him say this disease temple? Am I the only one that thinks that that was part of another movie, and following that statement was this?
I'm going to pull the whole thing down.
I'm going to bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's got to be biblical.
Tell me that doesn't fire you up. I wanted to yell. So bad, but I know this microphone would have blew out everybody's speakers and y'all be pissed off at me, right? Listen to what Cash, I hate to say it, but I know sometimes we're distracted when we're watching these podcasts, we're watching the kids, we're having dinner, we're doing things. Listen to what Cash says one more time. And I'm going to play that clip one more time because I want you guys to feel and hear and see what I'm seeing.
But we also at this FBI, even though we uncovered what we uncovered back in the House Intel days, I had to come in here and find rooms that they hid from the world. I had to come in here and find access on our computer systems in restricted and prohibited case files that they purposely put in places for no one to see and find. We have found all this information. We are working with our Department of Justice partners, and I am never going to let this go because they not only have personally attacked the presidency of the United States and President Trump, but they tried to thwart our elections and rig the entire system. And that is not something that is going to stop on. That is not something I'm going to allow on my watch. Right. But you just have to remember, they built this disease temple.
I'm going to pull the whole thing down. I'm going to bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's got to be biblical.
Folks, we are at war with the fucking deep state. That is the director of the FBI that just gave you a quasi quote of a very symbolic phrase that he knows our community references and understands, talking about the elections. Something that I have said. I know, CanCon's on board with me on this. I think Ash is on board with this, even though we have some different, positions and perspectives when it comes to elections. But we all have the basic understanding that it doesn't matter what your fight is, the kids, sovereignty for your body, sovereignty for the country, international relationships. It doesn't matter. The foundation of all of it is our elections. And what Cash just said right now is we're going to bring the whole fucking thing down. Let's keep going. This one fires me up. Real Robert puts out, investigative journalist Laura Logan drops a bombshell. Trump went after Maduro, knowing Venezuela coordinated with Iran and the CCP and helped overthrow the United States government on November 3rd, 2020. And the intelligence community covered it all up. In other words, Sidney Powell vindicated once more precisely why the regime went after her. Funny thing is, I distinctly remember two guys, this guy and Josh, saying before we even attacked Venezuela what this was all about. Let's take a listen to this old clip that is now very relevant with Sidney.
I can hardly wait to put forth all the evidence we have collected on Dominion, starting with the fact it was created to produce altered voting results in Venezuela for Hugo Chavez, and then shipped internationally to manipulate votes for purchase in other countries, including this one. It was funded by money from Venezuela and Cuba, and China has a role in it also. We have staggering statistical evidence. We have staggering testimony from witnesses, including one who was personally in briefings when all of this was discussed and planned, beginning with Hugo Chavez and how it was designed there, and then saw it happening in this country. As soon as the state shut down on election night and stopped counting, those are the states where the most egregious problems occurred. We also need to look at, and we're beginning to collect evidence on the financial interests of some of the governors and secretaries of state who actually bought into the Dominion systems to line their own pockets by getting a voting machine in that would either make sure their election was successful or they got money for their family from it. Well, for fraud this serious, I think even if the states are stupid enough to go ahead and certify the votes where we know the machines were operating and producing altered election results, then they will be set aside by the fraud also. I mean, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of votes. President Trump won this election in a landslide. It's going to be irrefutable. Patriots are coming forward faster than we can collect their information with testimony they're willing to give under oath about how their votes were stolen and how the machines operated. They were updated the night of the election, sometimes after the election. We've got statistical evidence that shows hundreds of thousands of votes being just put in and replicated. There needs to be a massive criminal investigation, and it's going to affect millions of voters in election.
And your FBI director just told you there is going to be, and there is happening, a massive investigation into this stuff. RNC Research puts out this video, representative or Jordan. Some of you guys have seen this clip. I know me and CanCon talked about it on daily, but for those of you that haven't, the woman that's being questioned here is the CEO of Act Blue. So Jordan's going to ask her a series of questions, knowing that she's not going to answer, but her response, her response is important, not just for the legal indictment that's coming, but for the public indictment. Because again, this is all about the court of public opinion. Take a listen to Jordan.
Your board chairman said Act Blue accepted up to 38 million contributions in 2024 that had the signs of foreign origin. How much fraud is too much fraud?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
How many foreign contributions did Act Blue accept?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
How much money did Act Blue accept from Russia?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Why did your entire legal team quit? Your in-house legal team?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Listen, everybody has the constitutional right to claim the fifth or enact the fifth, right? We have that. But again, for the court of public opinion, for the public indictment, we all know exactly why she pled the fifth, because she is cooked and she is done. This brings us again, full circle now, back to Governor Gavin Newsom here in California. My office is demanding the Trump administration release any and all records on the Trump's DOJ's politically motivated, baseless fishing expedition. The American people deserve to know who ordered this abuse of power and how far it goes. That's funny. Where was Governor Newsom's Office of the Governor letterhead when the FBI and Biden DOJ went and raided the house of a former president? He didn't care about weaponization then. Let's take a listen to this letter. U.S. Department of Justice, Office of the Attorney General. Dear FOIA officer, this is a request under the Freedom of Information Act. I request all documents and records, including but not limited to the memorandum, emails, text messages, and signal messages from, to, or copying any member of the executive leadership of the U.S. Department of Justice, including but not limited to the former Attorney General Pam Bondi, former Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove, and former Deputy Attorney General and Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, that the terms Gavin Newsom or Jennifer Siebel Newsom or Newsom between January 20th of 2025 and the present. If the request is denied in whole or in part, please justify all such denials by references to specific exemptions and provide an explanation of why the department reasonably foresees that disclosure would harm an interest protected by the exemption or why disclosure is prohibited. Now, what I want to say here is pure speculation. I'm firing from the cuff on this one, but hear me out, because what if, right? What if the DOJ says, okay, and they start to release this information to Newsom and the media, and we find out that these searches with the Attorney General, but not Attorney General Pam Bondi and not Deputy Attorney General Blanche, but what if we find out the previous Attorney General and Assistant Attorney General under Biden's administration had these terms searched? And what if the context of that search is not something that is going to vote well for Newsom? I think that this is going to absolutely be answered, and I think it is going to backfire on Newsom, because it's going to come, the initial part of it is going to come under the prior administration. And then how do you call Trump a weaponized, his FBI weaponized, when he says this started under your Democratic president? Because remember, Biden made a deal. And if he made a deal, there are things at the end of his presidency that he was going to do to help President Trump. Alpha, that's kind of crazy. What in the world would make you think that? If you've been following some of these trafficking arrest investigations like I have, you will find some of those investigations started in the tail end of Biden's administration. You heard that right. Some of these investigations leading to the location of these kids and some of these apprehensions were initiated during the end of Biden's administration. Why would that happen? Unless there was deals that were made. We'll see. Again, speculation. Let's keep firing off because we're running short on time. Mike Davis says, maybe Gavin is freaking out because his former chief of staff is turning on him. What's he talking about? This goes into Dana Williamson, Governor Newsom's former chief of staff, pled guilty to 3 felonies in May: bank and wire fraud, false tax returns, false statements to federal agents. The investigation actually begun under the Biden administration. What? Hold on. Oh, wait, Alpha, you just told us. I did. Max penalty of 30 years. Wait, Alpha, so you had a clue in here. A little bit, but we were bringing it. Folks, this DOJ is going to answer Newsom, and this is what you're going to find, that this investigation happened, parts that initiated, right? Because we're talking about the Dana Williamson investigation here, right? And she's already pled guilty. Happened under Biden's administration. Why would Biden's administration be investigating election fraud or campaign fraud? I think you guys see what's going on here. And then the last one, and then we're shifting gears. Homeland Security again. American elections belong to American citizens. The only people who should be voting in federal elections are true American citizens. And this comes from the Secretary of Homeland Security, because I want to remind you guys something that Trump did in his first administration was he made elections part of our infrastructure. And that is going to be more important than you can ever fathom in a couple of weeks when Trump makes a move that makes everybody's jaws drop to be like, can he do that? And the answer is yes. With that, folks, if you love the channel that I do and you love the fact that I can do this for free, then continue to help me do this for free by supporting the people that support this show, like Rumble itself. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so that you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you've felt that problem. I felt that one on Monday. It sucked. Now, fast forward to today. Everybody's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels a little complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all the complexity and it makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stable coins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay so that you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like this guy directly. So do this now. Scan that QR code or click the link in the description and download the Rumble wallet today. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. Again, if you're like, I don't see a QR code on my screen, just make sure you jump on over to Rumble later and pick up that link from the description. Or you can rewind back to about an hour and 14 minutes into this podcast, and that QR code will be there for you to then take a screenshot. The other one that I want to go to, we played it earlier, but they're changing lives, they're saving lives, and they're changing everybody's health into something great. Pet Club.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
AlphaWarrior247.com for us humans, maybe the aliens too, or Alpha Pets 247. Those links down in the description to get your access to that pet club stuff and take advantage of the great prices they have for you and my audience. And of course, you guys know I take it. I have the bottles right there if anybody wants to see them. And shout out to rstar77. Says, I lost the message, but he said, first time here, enjoying the show. So welcome to the family. And I hope you make some pretty cool friendships. We have a pretty solid audience that's here. And every now and then you'll see a weirdo come in here and then you guys will have fun. Yeah, I don't really have to ban the trolls that often because you guys are just savages. It's why I love you. But I said the elections were going to take us into the Save America Act conversation. We are now here. The storm has arrived, says, we have the things that you won't believe. That's a quote from Trump. President Trump just said that more evidence on the rigged 2020 election is coming soon. They rigged the election, the second election. Most of you know that happened. And now it's been proven. It will be proven as time goes by even more so. We have things that you won't believe when we release the full files. You're not going to believe how crooked the second 2020 election was. Folks, take a listen to our president.
Now they made it so that I wouldn't be president, and because they rigged the election, the second election, as you probably hear and probably know, most of you know that happened, and now it's been proven, and it will be proven as time goes by even more so. We have things that you won't believe. When we release the full files, you're not going to believe how crooked the second 2020 election was. But who would have thought that it comes due in my term? I mean, this was, thank you very much. So it was very important that we be able to do that. So we're talking to them. We'll see if we do something.
There's some fake laughs in there. It's the president. I don't know. Listen, I love the boss, man. I love Trump. But if he said a joke and it wasn't funny, I'd probably be like, nah. Love you, boss, but that was kind of weak. But anyways, I do agree with him on the man upstairs made this happen. Eric Dowdy puts, well, President Trump just added the Save America Act to his $350 billion Pentagon reconciliation package, the Recon 3, which only needs a simple majority, 50 plus the VP, to pass. When he did this, I was like, this is pretty slick. I want to research this. And so when I started researching this move that Trump did to see if he could even do it, right? And he can, guess what I found out? This is what Obama did in 2012 to pass the Smith Modernization Act. Yeah, I shit you not. That was the look that I had too, that you just had. If you're hearing that information for the first time, I was like, son of a bitch. This is the precedent that a president had already utilized to pass something that has been devastating to our country when it comes to propaganda against the U.S. citizens. And this is what he did. And so Trump went in and he did exactly what Obama did. And the numbers to pass it would be there. I mean, if we weren't battling an establishment, right? Let's take a listen to this one.
We put in today, as you know, about Save America, the Save America Act. I don't know, someday the Senate and the House will get it done, although I must tell you the House has approved it about 3 times already. Save America Act right here. We have, everybody can see that. And then we'll talk about clean, beautiful coal. You're not allowed to say coal within the Trump administration unless it's preceded by the words clean, beautiful. Complicates our life, but it's good, right, Chris, wherever you may be? It is clean and beautiful. I'll tell you, it's effective. So the Save America Act is all voters must show photo ID. So you go to vote and you show photo ID. Not complicated, right? You know, who could oppose it? They say it's an 80-20. It's not. It's about 99-1, and we'll never find the one person. Andy, congratulations, Andy, on a big victory.
Thank you for your help.
That's a great. I appreciate it, but you're very good at what you do, and I've been backing you right from the beginning for a long time, right?
Backing you too, sir.
For years, that's right. You have. Thank you. Congratulations. You won a big election. So you have all voters must show photo ID, identification. All voters must show a little thing called proof of citizenship. Would you say that's 99-1, Mr. Pennsylvania?
I would say that's maybe 100 to 0.
I would think so. They say
At least it should be.
No, but they say it's 80-20. It's not 80-20. It's 99. And we've never found the one person. There's another one. Then you have no mail-in ballots, but we want to be liberal, as they say. Or we'll say we want to be progressive. So it's no mail-in ballots. You see that's what's happening in California. They're rigging the election. Now, maybe we caught them, and maybe they won't be able to get away with it. They tried with me. They did it successfully the second time. The third time, we made it too big to rig. Too many votes. They couldn't do it. They can only go. They sort of gave up at about 9:07 when they got slaughtered with the votes that came in. But no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. So we're being very progressive, and we just don't want cheating.
Common sense stuff, right? And I agree. It's like 100-0, right? 99-1, can't ever find the one. And here we are. Brings us to Richard Citizen Journalist. Breaking: the U.S. Senate has just rejected the Save America Act as part of the budget reconciliation, 48-50. Would have required voter ID and proof of citizenship nationwide. The Republicans that told Trump and all of us to go F ourselves: Tom Tillis, Lisa Murkowski, Mitch McConnell, and Susan Collins. Unbelievable. This is the establishment there, folks. Let's keep going, and I'm going to explain what this all means. Eric Dowdery just in. Senate Leader John Thune tells President Trump no, they won't attach the Save America Act to the FISA bill, as Trump requested, because it's unrealistic. At every possible opportunity, the Save America Act gets stalled and blocked. It got 50 votes on the floor, nuke the filibuster so J.D. Vance can swoop in and break the tie. Listen to Trump equals the win. It's that simple equation. Boom. And I have this clip.
It's a well-known fact around here, sometimes perhaps not fully grasped around the country, but anybody who follows this process closely knows that we don't have the votes. And the only way that you could figure out a way to get the votes, and even in that case, the Save America Act didn't even get 50 votes last week on the floor of the Senate, but even if you confine it to...
Folks, and we're going to get into speculation right now in just a second on why Thune might have this position, but let me tell you what's going on. And for some of you that have followed me in all these different platforms or followed or I'm a guest on other shows, this is going to be something you've heard before, but it's important enough, especially when we have new people watching the show, that people understand this. What do I mean when I say the Save America Act is not going to pass? And how can I say that when I support President Trump? Because I know what Trump's doing. Trump has been pushing the Save America Act hard. He has been relentless. Again, because of what I said, a little earlier in the show, this has to become a household name, at least a term that's understood within those people that are going to vote, right? And here's the reason why. Trump tried to put it on the reconciliation bill. They said no. They rejected it. Trump's trying to get it attached to FISA. They said no. They reject it. Trump has been doing everything he can. And again, this goes back to what Clay Higgins said. Remember, they're going to smoke themselves out. We're seeing that through this Save America Act. But here's the other reason too, folks. This is what's going to be coming before we get to midterms. On my speculation and assessment, I have not shifted from this. As a matter of fact, I am doubling down because I'm so confident that this is how it's going to go down. And hopefully I'm wrong and we'll see something that changes that. But as of now, this is my position. The closer we get to midterms, we're going to get to a point where the election fraud that was dealt with from the CCP and Serbia and all these different countries, the rat that's talking to us from what was going down in Venezuela, all this is coming to the choke point, the fatal funnel that I've been talking about for quite some time now. Here in the next few weeks, it's going to surface, right? When this surfaces, every American, every Republican American, every conservative American, and I would even argue people that are on the left, because I really do believe that this is something that's easily bipartisan, not when it comes to politicians, but everyday Americans, is going to say, man, everybody's been stealing our elections. Adversaries, other nation states, states that or countries that we've considered allies, the military industrial complex, everybody has been saying all our votes have always been stolen from us. Everybody's going to be pissed. People are going to be like, this is why we voted to get taxed even more in California, because I know we weren't that retarded. This is why we've been sending millions of dollars to Pakistan so they could study condoms out there. Like this is the explanation because of all this election fraud into our country. And everybody's going to say, it is time, Senate, pass the Save America Act. And Thune is going to say no a final time. And when that happens, because remember, elections were declared part of our national infrastructure. When that happens, and I think that there's going to be something else that happens that's going to show that our judicial system has been compromised, and there's going to be some other things that happen that are going to show that local law enforcement and even the National Guard under the command of governors are not in a position to facilitate fair elections. I think Trump is going to declare a national emergency when it comes to our elections. And he's going to say, we're going to vote on paper, we're going to vote with IDs, and we're going to vote in one day. And this is how it's going to happen because we are dealing with a national emergency. I think we might see some type of either martial law security forces or even some type of issue with posse comitatus. And I don't know exactly what that looks like. I've still been studying that. But I don't think it's going to be the military in the terms of we're going to go to voting precincts, and these voting precincts are going to be, soldiers that are there and saying, here's your ID and all that. It could be. And I'd be okay with that, honestly, given what's going on with the deep state. What I think is these voting precincts are going to do these measures. You got to vote by ID, and here's the ballots that you got to do it with. I think where the military is going to come into play is I think the military is going to collect the ballots from every precinct in this country. And I think the votes are going to be counted by the military. Military is the only way I think is going to refer to this structure of the military counting our votes. And I think what we're going to see in midterms when this happens is a red tsunami. And that's going to put Trump with a government that is going to be a supermajority, but not just a supermajority in terms of numbers and names, but a supermajority in terms of government elected politicians that are aligned with Trump's agenda, which is the American agenda, which is then when I see the mass arrests coming from the indictments and stuff that we're seeing now. I strongly believe that that picture is going to look something like that as we approach November of this year. We will see. But I haven't been wrong in the 4.5 years that we've been doing it. So we'll see how this plays out. Shout out to Autobahn F1 who gifted 10 subscriptions, man. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. And a thank you from each one of my audience members that got to benefit from that sign of generosity. Let's keep going because we are pressed for time. I said that what could probably be the leverage against Thune? Some of you guys like her, some of you guys hate her, but Laura Luma comes out and says exclusive. Senator John Thune's daughter was the director of a PAC that gave money to anti-Trump and radical left Democrats. She goes on to say, Senator John Thune's daughter, Brittany Thune Lindbergh, served as the director and vice president of the Council of Insurance Agents and Brokers PAC, aka Council PAC, from February 2013 to June 2021. During Brittany Thune Lindbergh's tenure at the PAC, multiple anti-Trump radical leftists were rewarded with generous monetary contributions, including Nancy Pelosi, Mickey Sherrill, Hakeem Jeffries, Jamie Raskin, John Tester, Catherine Clark, Sherrod Brown. How can Thune be trusted as the Senate GOP leader, a position that will allow him to have control over Senate funds when his own daughter, who he referred to as gifted and accomplished professional on X, gave money to the same people who tried to destroy Trump and jail him? I'm sure Brittany enjoys a lot of political benefits from her father being a top-ranking Rhino senator, I wouldn't trust the Senate GOP leader if his daughter was tied to PACs funding the nastiest anti-Trump Democrats in our country. It's worth noting that Senator Thune has never condemned his daughter's anti-Trump and pro-democratic political activities, disqualifying conflict of interest for anyone trying to assume the role of Senate GOP leader. The receipts, and she gives a shout out to CCP Skip Tracer, and then also tags Senator Rick Scott in the Senate GOP. And let's take a look at her receipts that she brought. And here comes from LinkedIn. You see the highlighted parts in red for VP Development and Director of Council PAC. And then you see right here, the Pelosi for Congress, numerous contributions, 2,500, 1,500, 2,500, all the way up to 5,000 several times. And then again, you see it here, Jeffries for Congress, same thing, 5,000, 2,500. You see these PAC contributions. And then, of course, over here, you see Jamie Raskin. Is that possibly the reason? I mean, damn, I'm open to considering that. Let's keep going. August the 17th, you guys know he's one of my favorite anons, says President Trump asked about John Bolton. I used him for a purpose. Now, Q told us long ago, almost 6 years ago, about infiltration, how it worked, who was involved and for what reason. Read this. This is post 4620, dated July 31st, 2020. Infiltration. Only those who can be controlled via blackmail or like beliefs were installed in critical leadership positions across all political and non-political control and command positions, CCP. Now, I'm going to forward down here to this, but here's something I want to see because I saw somebody in the chat and I wish I would have remembered who posted this comment. But it said, I think it was either our judicial system or our Supreme Court is being compromised, right? It's under control of the enemy. And I would agree with a lot of that perspective on a lot of the establishment's portions of our government. But I also want to remind people, you don't have to completely get rid of these people in order to deliver the blow that destroys the deep state while exposing the mechanism how it operates. If these people were able to be controlled and leveraged and blackmailed through the deep state in order to facilitate the outcome the deep state wanted, what does that show? That these people are going to do whatever they're told to do so long as it doesn't jeopardize whatever leverage is hanging over them. So guess what you do when you're the white hats? You now tell them, we now control you. And this is how things are going to operate. And then eventually, obviously, you're going to rid these people because they're trash, they're compromised, they're evil, they're unethical, they're immoral. You're going to get rid of them. But just remember, we're in a war. So for the portions of, or for the purpose of the war, you don't have to get rid of them, start over, get people trained up, get people voted in. All you have to do is just use the very same leverage against them. Again, there's going to be people that are going to say, I don't like that. That's not ethical and it's immoral. And I would argue that, or I wouldn't argue. I would say you're right. But we're in unrestricted warfare. This is not meant to be a fair fight. And that's why there are people in positions of power like Trump and some of our military generals that'll make the decisions that are harder for a lot of the good people to make, because sometimes in a very ugly war against the most evil and powerful regime that ever existed in this world, you're not going to get there by simply playing by the rules or trying to remain morally sound. We like to think that because it makes us feel good, but feel good doesn't defeat the devil's army. So as we continue on, Christian Collins puts, the people who swore Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation are now leading the charge against Pulte for Director of National Intelligence. That tells you everything you need to know. I passed that one because we don't really need to go into that clip. I do want to cover this because we're going to get into the Tulsi Gabbard here stuff in a little bit. Eric Dowry puts, holy crap, President Trump just announced Bill Pulte will take over as acting Director of National Intelligence early, as of 10 days from now on June 19th. That's despite some Senate Republicans demanding he cancel the appointment. Democrats are livid. William Pulte, who's working closely with Tulsi Gabbard, will be taking over as acting Director of National Intelligence on Friday, June 19th. He will remain as the Director of Federal Housing Finance Agency and Chairman of Fannie Mae Freddie Mac. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump exposed it all. And again, you've heard my position on this. I won't regurgitate it. You've heard, CanCon's position on this, what he knew, especially what's going on with the mortgage fraud, especially the stuff that I've done on prior shows with Sean Taylor, specifically looking at mortgage fraud within the states of Tennessee, Arizona, and specifically Maricopa County out there in Arizona, and the ties to the cartels and all that stuff that's going on. This guy, Pulte, had access to that. But again, Trump said, that he's going to remain as the director of the federal housing finance during this process, which means Trump already knew that he had his eyes on somebody else, right? We didn't know what that time frame looked like, but we knew it would at least max out at 210 days because we knew that Congress was never going to approve this guy, which would have taken us right around to the end of January of 2027. Again, that would have been during the time Trump will now have a supermajority, and either he keeps Pulte or he plugs in the new guy. Well, since then, we know that Trump has brought up a new guy to take over that position. Who is that guy? Enoch puts out, boom, Trump just nominated the current United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, SDNY, as our next Director of National Intelligence. Let that sink in. This is the same SDNY that has been at the center of everything. Weiner, we're talking about the Anthony Weiner laptop, Clinton Foundation, Epstein, Ukraine, and more. Q highlighted 9 separate times as critical. Here's the drop that hits different now. We're talking about drop 4484, which comes from June 20th of 2020. How convenient is that? SDNY, importance of SDNY control, jurisdiction, Weiner evidence collection, Clinton Foundation, Epstein evidence collection, Ukraine, focus on the above for now, temporary. Watch NYC, a link from Twitter that addresses SDNY news. Again, the guard refusing to step down, POTUS refusal to formally nominate, appoint to posts by SDNY judges, unusual. The stakes are high. They will fight. Super Bowl is going to be bigger than a puppy show. So that takes us to, well, who is this guy from SDNY? Well, that would be Jay Clayton. Who's Jay Clayton? I'm going to read this top part, then I'm going to scroll down to a part that I highlighted. Walter Joseph J. Clayton III is an American attorney who has served as a United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York since 2025. Clayton served as the chair of Securities and Exchange Commission from 2017 to 2020. Some of you will remember his position on something dealing with XRP. All that's important, but this is the part that I find is more important if I can get to it. There we go. Post-government work, 2021 to 2024. In February of 2021, the Wall Street Journal reported that Apollo Management had appointed Clayton as its board lead independent director, a newly formed position. Why was there a newly formed position? Well, the decision occurred as the firm was implementing an overhaul of its governance following allegations that its chief executive, Leon Black, had an extensive relationship with the financier and child sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein. So they have a chief executive. This guy's getting ousted because of his connections to Epstein. And in a new position that's being formed, they bring in Jay Clayton. Now, Jay Clayton has connections to some places that I think we're all concerned with, as we should be. Don't discount that. Don't ignore it. But be open to her perspective. And this is something that I think my background helps me out a lot in, is there are good people that we're going to find out are bad, and there are bad people we're going to find out that are good, and then there's going to be some that are just indifferent, right? But if you're going to infiltrate an institution, that means you're going to be hanging out with people and you're going to be working for companies and entities that a lot of us hate and see that are bad. But again, infiltration versus invasion, that wasn't just for us, folks. That was for the bad guys as well. And I don't care what people think. I know this as absolute fact. You don't get into the positions of power that you need to within the deep state without some of these men and women doing things that they're going to take to the grave with them. Whether I like it or you like it, the one thing that I know from when it comes to undercover work, to the level that these people would have had to have done it, there are things that they're going to take to the grave with them. And that is a judgment call they're going to have to make. And that is an argument that they're going to have to take up with our creator, because some of that stuff may have even been sacrificing their soul. Who knows? But again, this guy came in and replaced somebody in a new position, not the chief executive position, but a newly formed position, because the guy from Epstein got removed. This is one thing that caught my attention, because they took out a bad dude and they brought in Jay Clayton. And now Jay Clayton is someone that Trump has nominated to the office of the Director of National Intelligence. Think about that. Not going to go into the full article of it, but the one thing that's also kind of puzzling to me is you got guys like Thune and Congress that want to accelerate Jay Clayton's confirmation. That is something that you think, well, if the bad people want this guy in, that should definitely raise some flags for us. I would agree with you. But it also means that, maybe they don't know that he infiltrated. This is something we definitely have to monitor very close. And what I would say is, do you trust President Trump? I do. Let's see what Jake Clayton does in this position coming out of the gate. And I think because Trump understands the lens that a lot of us are going to see this guy through because of his connections, I think he's going to have Jake Clayton do something very significant right out of the gate after his confirmation. That's going to let us all know this dude's definitely on our fucking side. Like, there's no way he's going to do that to the deep state. So as soon as his confirmation has been solidified, look for a major move that Trump is going to have this guy do to let us know he's good to go. He's got our blessing. This is more of that. So now let's get into the Tulsi Gabbard stuff, because we're just under an hour to fly through this part, and this stuff's important. This came from a few days ago. Today, I'm releasing never before seen intelligence revealing new evidence of past U.S. government funding for more than 120 biolabs in over 30 countries, including Ukraine. Take a watch.
After months of searching through intelligence community holdings and files, today I'm releasing new evidence of long-standing U.S. government funding of more than 120 biolabs in over 30 countries. Now, these biolabs include labs in places like Ukraine, which could be at risk of compromise due to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. In fact, the intelligence community had previously warned that a U.S.-funded biolab in Ukraine likely housed dangerous pathogens and remained vulnerable to long-standing threats of Russian attack, seizure, or damage. Now, until now, evidence regarding the full existence and funding of these laboratories had been knowingly withheld from you, the American people. Many of these U.S. government-funded biolabs are currently or have previously engaged in research using hazardous and highly contagious pathogens, and in some cases included dangerous gain-of-function research with very little visibility or oversight. Now, President Trump clearly understands the serious threat dangerous gain-of-function research poses to the American people. And this is why he took decisive action over a year ago. On May 25th, 2025, he signed an executive order to end federal funding of gain-of-function research around the world. Here at ODNI, I issued new guidance to the intelligence community directing increased collection on these laboratories and facilities overseas. And we're already seeing the results of this increased collection. We're learning new details, for example, on clinical trials that are underway at these facilities and that are raising significant ethical, financial, and security concerns regarding the supposed public health initiatives and U.S. national security. Now, despite the obvious potential for catastrophic global impact that research on dangerous pathogens in biolabs can have, politicians and so-called health professionals like Dr. Fauci, as well as entities within the Biden administration's national security team, lied repeatedly to the American people about the existence of U.S.-funded and supported biolabs. Not only did they lie, they threatened those who attempted to expose the truth. So this release today breaks new ground, as the information surrounding the existence, history, locations, and funding of these U.S.-funded biolabs has been intentionally covered up by very powerful people who falsely claimed that these biolabs didn't exist. Now, they accuse anyone who says otherwise to be foreign assets and traitors to America. Now, ODNI will continue working closely with partners across the U.S. government to identify exactly where these labs are and what pathogens they contain to end dangerous gain-of-function research that threatens the health and well-being of the American people and people around the world.
Pretty self-explanatory on that, and we're going to have a conversation on this, but I'm going to fly through this because I want to make sure we cover some things. This brings us to a post of a video that MJ Truth puts out, and it says that this video now has more relevance, right? An older one. Sun Tzu says yes. What's he talking about? Take a listen to this.
But the thing that we are working with Jay Bhattacharya, the new NIH director, on with, as well as Secretary Kennedy, is looking at the gain-of-function research that in the case of the Wuhan lab, as well as many of these other biolabs around the world, was actually U.S. funded and leads to this dangerous kind of research that in many examples has resulted in either a pandemic or some other major health crisis.
Well, let me ask you specifically, because we already know that EcoHealth Alliance was partnering with this Wuhan lab to do gain of function research.
That's right.
We just have never been able to have somebody say, it was that exact experiment that led to this COVID bug. But have we gotten there? What's the new thing that you're digging in on?
We are working on that with Jay Bhattacharya and look forward to being able to share that, hopefully very soon.
Okay.
That specific
link.
Correct. Between the gain of function research and what we saw with COVID-19.
I mean, that would be extraordinary because just so the audience knows, if that's true, if it was Peter Daszak's research with the Wuhan so-called bat lady that caused this pandemic, then we did fund it. Then Anthony Fauci helped fund the pandemic.
The thing that he denied over and over and over to Senator Rand Paul's questioning.
That's right. Under oath.
Under oath, exactly. So is it any wonder that he sought a preemptive pardon for anything during a certain period of time by President Biden before he left office?
And then strong-armed and smeared people like Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, anybody who came out and said, I don't know if that's natural. This actually smacks of lab.
And the reason why this is so important is not just what happened in the past. It's because this gain of function research is happening in biolabs around the world. I got attacked, and I think you saw this. We've probably talked about it on your show before, when I warned against U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine when the Russia-Ukraine war kicked off for this very reason. Who knows what kinds of pathogens are in these labs, and if released, could create another COVID-like pandemic. And for that, I was called a Russian asset. You're, trumpeting Putin's talking points, all of this nonsense, simply for speaking the truth and stating facts that, by the way, are still on U.S. Embassy Ukraine's website today about how the U.S. has funded these biolabs in Ukraine. But my point is, in order to prevent another COVID-like pandemic or another major health incident that could affect us in the world, we have to end this gain of function research and provide the evidence that shows exactly why and how it's in our best interest, the American people's best interest, to bring about an end to it.
Now, a couple of things to key on here. First thing being that this interview she did with Megyn Kelly, if I remember correctly, was probably the later portion of 2025, where she's talking about this gain of function and Fauci. And look what she's wearing. Look at the color of her coat, her t-shirt, and her necklace, right? Now let's go to what she's wearing here. Do you think that they chose the same wardrobe on similar topics? That's not a coincidence? I'm sorry. That alone, and I get it, it's Alpha, we're talking just clothes. It's still significant to tie in these conversations together. And that's essentially what I think it is for, the significance. Get that interview with Megyn Kelly and tie it into this conversation of what she just briefed on right here. Now, why does all this matter as we fly through this conversation? What did Tulsi tell us that she was doing in the very beginning when she was doing the investigation into the Russia collusion thing? That it was RICO, right? And I was all pumped up. You guys were all pumped up because we'd been screaming RICO before anybody else ever did. And then after that, when everybody was celebrating, I said, you know what? Based on the things that I'm seeing and some of the things that I'm hearing, this ain't going to be the only RICO. There's going to be multiple RICO cases that are popping off. Now we know, or we have confirmation now, but we already suspected it, knew somewhat, that not only was Tulsi Gabbard as DNI looking into Russia, but she was looking into gain of function and Fauci. Why does that matter? Well, let's not forget how we got into 2020, folks. COVID was the fundamental war tactic that the deep state used in order to articulate the outcome that they wanted. COVID RICO, Fauci RICO is going to get tied into Russia RICO, which is going to get tied. It's all going to get combined together. So stop thinking of ouchie Fauci. Stop thinking of the biolabs as something that's independent, and recognize and remember how that was utilized as a war tactic in our elections. That is what you're seeing play out here. That's what makes this so significant. Now, we'll fly through these video clips. I just wanted to make sure you guys understood that one as we got into it. Kirill Dmitriev again says significant disclosure for the security of the world and to avoid manufactured pandemics. This tells you that the Russian envoy ambassador Kirill gets what I'm putting down, because essentially that's what he's saying. These manufactured pandemics, this is how they affected elections, right? Let's keep flying. Michael, call him K because I'm not going to report that in or try to read that last name. He says in 2008, our government discovered that gain of function viruses aren't deadly. Viruses don't kill. Bacterial infections kill, especially when antibiotics are restricted, denied, or more importantly, delayed, which we saw. NIH determined their gain of function bioneered Comirnaty mutant from 1917 to 1918 viruses doesn't kill. When they tested 32 90-year-old survivors of the 1917-1918 Spanish flu ammonia pandemic with the government's more deadly and more virulent 1917-1918 gain-of-function virus against the survivors' antibodies. The survivors' antibodies destroyed both gain-of-function and the seasonal 2008 influenza. This is a great read, but it's a very long one. So what I'll do is I'll grab that and I will put it down in the chat for you guys. Where the heck did it go? Because I don't want you guys to miss out on that information because it is important. So you will see it. I'm going to put it in both chats. Give me 1 second. Don't have a producer, so I got to do this on my own while we're live. But I want to make sure you guys all have it. And now you all do. And I'll put it down in the show notes for you guys as well. So let's keep going. This brings us into Maze Moore puts out. In 2022, Jen Psaki was asked about claims that we were operating biolabs in Ukraine. She denied the existence of bioweapons programs and then called the whole thing Russian disinformation. Same Russian disinformation that Tulsi is now telling us is part of a RICO investigation. Let's remember Jen Psaki because she's going to be a whole lot of trouble.
Russia has a history also of inventing outright lies like this, which is the suggestion that the United States has a chemical and biological weapons program, or Ukraine does, that they're operating. Russia is the country that has a chemical and biological weapons program. So the objective was to make clear the inaccuracy of the information, the misinformation they're trying to put out, and make clear to the world that they not only have the capacity, they have a history of using chemical and biological weapons, and that in this moment we should have our eyes open for that possibility.
Today, I'm releasing new evidence of long-standing U.S. government funding of more than 120 biolabs in over 30 countries. Now, these biolabs include labs in places like Ukraine, which could be at risk of compromise due to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. In fact, the intelligence community had previously warned that a U.S.-funded biolab in Ukraine likely housed dangerous pathogens, as the information surrounding the existence, history, locations, and funding of these U.S.-funded biolabs has been intentionally covered up by very powerful people who falsely claimed that these biolabs didn't exist. Now, they accuse anyone who says otherwise to be foreign assets and traitors to America.
And they're all going to go down for it because this is RICO, criminal enterprises. Kirill Dmitriev comes back to bring Hunter Biden into the picture. He goes, "Dear Hunter, coming clean and sharing your recovery story is deeply moving. You will feel even more relieved by also coming clean about Biden family corruption in Ukraine, biolabs, Burisma improprieties, and the 10% for the bid guy. Please do. X and the world are waiting." We talked about Hunter Biden last week's shows, whether I think it was Monday and Tuesday night that we touched on those, if not definitely Monday. Why does that matter? We're going to get there. General Flynn comes out and he says, "Breaking Ukraine. What is really going on? Biolabs, trafficking, laundering, you name it. Ukraine is a crossroads of Europe, and U.S. taxpayers are being ripped off to the tune of billions with no clear end in sight. This is another war that has to end, and the U.S. needs to find a graceful exit out. Prolonging this war has the real potential to lead a nuclear exchange." And pouring good money after bad is never a good thing. And if you guys saw at the G7, Zelensky trying to get Trump's attention and Trump just giving him the cold shoulder in his back, it was absolutely phenomenal. Let's take a listen to the general.
What we're seeing in Ukraine is we're seeing a country that is, and everybody knows this now, there's no more hiding this. So why is Ukraine so important? Well, it's a hub for human trafficking. It's a hub specifically for child trafficking. It's a hub for narcotics trafficking. It's a hub for weapons trafficking. We know about our biolabs because Victoria Nuland said we had them there. I mean, we've always known that, but that's stated now publicly. And there's a lot of money just flowing into this country. And you say to yourself, where is this money going? And is it money laundering? Is it money laundering? I mean, money laundering, you name it. Just this week, and it may not have come up on your screen, but I know you pay attention a lot. I mean, there's a couple of people. I think one of them is like somebody in the Ministry of Defense there, and it might be the Minister of Defense or maybe somebody in his orbit. They're buying these gigantic homes for, millions and millions of dollars. And you say to yourself, how is this the case?
So we're talking Victoria Nuland, we're talking biolabs, we're talking Jen Psaki and the Biden crew denying all this. Hunter Biden all of a sudden going viral on social media. Tulsi Gabbard comes out and says, hey, this gain of function stuff was legit. There was cover-ups. Fauci is definitely implicated in this. We started the show off tonight with some good news because the Beagles are getting freed. We remember the Beagle conversation going into Fauci. Why does all this matter? Because what you're seeing, again, is all going to lead to the election war, which is not the final war because that happens in 2027. That's going to involve the CCP. Again, show for another day. But it's the way we position ourselves to be prepared for that war has to start with securing our country first. That's going to be legitimate. And that's what you see happening and unfolding right here, which brings us to John Harold, boss man over there at Badlands, says, this release is only 4 pages long. It doesn't tell us anything groundbreaking. Now, and I agree with John and I disagree. It's not groundbreaking for us because all of us were knee deep in researching this stuff, but it is groundbreaking for the normies that are like, say, what? Like, I thought Fauci was saving humanity. So it is groundbreaking for them. We have known about the U.S. funding biolabs all over the world, and we're just called conspiracy theorists for it. My favorite part is the repeated mentions of Black and VTech because B and V is connected to Hunter Biden. What? Hunter Biden's Rosemont Seneca and a stake in Rosemont Seneca Technology Partners, or RSTP. RSTP invested $500,000 in what? Metabiota, and later an additional $10 million, emails showing them bragging about being the largest and sole institutional investors. Metabiota received multiple subcontracts from B&V. Hunter also tried to get what? Burisma involved with Metabiota. Here we go. You see all the black or the red boxes around B&V. You see the CC to Hunter Biden, Rosemont Seneca Technology Partners, and RSTP became the largest and sole institutional investor in Metabiota. And then, of course, Metabiota gains government momentum with B&V subcontracts for defense and reduction programs. Why does all that matter? Well, what did John say at the beginning of this? This wasn't groundbreaking for us. So here we are in 2026 when all the normies are starting to figure out what is all this crazy stuff that's coming out and the director of national intelligence is talking about. But how long have we known about this kind of stuff? Well, what do we have here? This is a post from me back in January of 2023. And there's older posts to this one, but this one specifically was a podcast. This was the first podcast that I did where I brought on Game Tech Politics and Blue Canaries to talk about what? To talk especially about Hunter Biden, Rosemont Seneca, Metabiota, the coronavirus, all of it, folks. This is from January of 2023, 3.5 years ago. Yeah, doing my math right. Somebody will correct me if I got it wrong. But now, hold on. There's more. This post is from June of 2022. And what's this about? To all the dumbass liberals still believing fake-ass wannabes doing daily #Ukraine reports, proof from your corrupt government about aiding biolabs in Ukraine. This is why #Putin is whooping Ukraine's ass. And what am I talking about? I talk about this defense.gov news release right here. The United States has also worked collaboratively to improve Ukraine's biological safety, security, and disease surveillance for both human and animal health, providing support to 46 peaceful Ukrainian laboratories, health facilities, and disease diagnosis sites over the last 2 decades. The collaborative programs have focused on improving public health and agriculture safety measures as the nexus of non-proliferation. And it goes on and on, talks about the World Health Organization. This was June of 2022, folks. Maybe we kind of know what's going on here at the AlphaWarrior Show. Let's keep going. Real Robert puts the National Security Agency, NSA, intercepted intelligence, Ukraine conspiring with USAID to launder $200 million into Biden's 2024 campaign and the DNC. In other words, the Democrats funded the war in Ukraine so that they could launder the money back into their own coffers through USAID and use it to overthrow the U.S. government. Again, let's not also forget about FTX. And what's significant about FTX is, if you've been watching the recent headlines, the young dude, what's it, Sam Freud, butchering his name, is like, hey, yo, President Trump, how about you sling a pardon my way? Well, why in the world would Trump sling a pardon his way unless he's willing to say, hey, I can tell you the other ways that the Democrats and the establishment money laundered? Because that FTX money didn't just go to Democrats. It went to Republican rhinos too. So look for FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, if I got his name correct, to drop some gems for us as well. And then the last one, and then we're going to get into some aliens, folks, or close to some aliens. Colonel Dietrich again, Hunter Biden's fund and Joe Biden's U.S. Department of Defense finance Ukrainian biolabs and the research, clandestine operations endangering the world combined with Biden corruption. And we're talking about this post here. $2.4 billion fund under Hunter Biden involved financing U.S.-backed biolabs in Ukraine. The Rosemont Seneca Investment Fund, led by Hunter Biden, son of then Vice President Joe Biden, is involved in financing biological laboratories in Ukraine. This is going to get wild, folks. So that takes us into this. Director Kash Patel comes out and says, it's simple. We will find you. What's he talking about? Just another bad day to be a bad guy. FBI Boston announces RICO charges against 26 alleged gang members. Why is that important? Because RICO doesn't stop with the low-level hanging fruit gang members. It's going to go all the way to the top, which is their leadership. And their leadership is going to then turn and identify who from the CIA or whatever intelligence apparatus was the one regulating them as these international or national gangs. And then when those people are targeted and they get brought in, they're going to talk about the politicians, the deep states, and the CEOs, and every other person that's at the top of the 1% of the 1% that's been a part of this. That's where all this stuff is going, folks. Which then takes us into this one, Stephen Miller. I am your justice. I am your retribution. And this video clip right here, not going to play the audio, but I'll play it just so you can see things go boom, boom. What is it that's going boom, boom? Well, let's go into this Truth Social post. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read this highlighted part, right? At the direct, and including the first sentence. At my direction, the United States Southern Command delivered a swift and lethal kinetic strike to successfully execute who? Nino Guerrero, the infamous leader of Tren de Aragua, one of the most bloodthirsty terrorist organizations on planet Earth. Why does that matter? Let's rewind real quick to something that, like, why did Alpha fly past that so fast? And that had to do with, let's get that off the screen, and let's go over here to Jay Clayton. And why was Jay Clayton important? And let me see if I can find it. I was hoping that I would have put a highlight on it, but here's what I'll tell you. The reason that this clip over here with Trump is important. Oh, here it is. It's because of this. Leader of Tren de Aragua charged in Manhattan federal court with racketeering, terrorism, drug importation, and firearms offenses. RICO. Who's the guy that got charged with this RICO? Nino Guerrero. Who's the one that did this RICO on Nino Guerrero? Well, holy shit, look at that. United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton. Jay Clayton has been taking down the rank and file of the deep state apparatus before Trump ever identified him for ODNI. Is it making sense yet? Trump just nominated a guy to the office of the Director of National Intelligence who did RICO against Nino Guerrero. The Nino Guerrero that you see Trump do Boom, boom, right there. Nino Guerrero is now Pink Miss. Trump took out the leader of Trinidad and Tobago. Where do you think that info came from, folks? Fucking Jay Clayton, right? Someone say it with me. Fucking Jay Clayton, right? Let's get it. This is all coming together. All these moves are strategic. It's not Trump firing from the hip. It's Trump getting them to panic with Bill Pulte, giving Bill Pulte time to get the information he needs during his interim time as DNI for what's going on with the mortgage fraud and the housing fraud, Sean Taylor, to get them to beg Trump, you better not do it. So where Trump goes and picks this guy who they think is probably one of theirs, but Trump turns around and uses the intel from this guy to make the leader of Trinidad and Tobago go boom, boom. Tracking? Good. Now let's get into some aliens. Because we're down to like 19 minutes. So we got to fly through this really quick. Jesse Waters comes out and says, holy smokes, UFO files just dropped and they're getting weirder by the day. Massive mother orb launching smaller orbs one after another. Let's take a listen.
Fox News alert, we got more UFO files. The Department of War dropped a third batch. And America can't stop looking. The site has over 1.5 billion views. We see why. These files are pretty juicy. Out west, UFOs were spotted near a sensitive national security site back in 2023. Eyewitnesses described seeing orange orbs like this. They called it a mother orb, and then mother would launch smaller orbs, one after the other. In Colorado Springs, a former U.S. Army intel officer and 4 members of his unit saw a UFO over the Cheyenne Mountains. They said it looked kind of like a potato and was somewhat translucent with a slight shimmer. And in 2008, the CIA sent assets to Zimbabwe. They were on high alert after a UFO was supposedly hovering right over their airport. The files say lights were rotating under the UFO. And when it was spotted, the lights changed colors and then quickly flew out of sight. This is all happening here on Earth. But up in space, something weird's going on too. NASA audio shows that after the Apollo 16 mission in '72, scientists were talking about an alien starbase on the moon. The Pentagon also released years of eyewitness videos sent to the FBI, part of their unresolved cases. You can see multiple bright orbs moving through the sky, and the FBI didn't just watch them, they went out there. According to the files, the FBI conducted a boots-on-the-ground operation. Agents visited the property of people who said they saw UFOs. They were given a tour to understand how the videos were taken. During one of the visits in November 2024, FBI agents reported seeing a white pulsating light near the tree line. It bolted side to side, and they said it danced before disappearing. 2 other agents also observed a bright red light hovering at the treetops. They said it disappeared and then came right back. Agents tried to take a photo, but it was blurry. Now, we want to get to the bottom of these mysteries, and now experts are saying they're closer than ever to solving it. Maybe soon the president will tell us we're not alone.
Distraction, disclosure, or you have no clue. Let me know at the end of this alien segment what you guys think down in the comments. And if you need this information provided clarity, more confusion, or you're still like, I don't know, Alpha. This is Marco Rubio. We shot down 4 things over the United States, and 3 of them we have no idea what they are.
This morning we're going to have a classified briefing on the objects that were shot down over the last weekend. First of all, I don't know why it's classified. I do not believe that any of the information that they've shared or are going to share with us is going to be the kind of thing that has to be kept secret. There's very specific reasons why things are classified, and if this doesn't meet the standard, maybe I'm wrong, we're going to find out. Second is this is pretty extraordinary, okay? This is not just a curiosity or into weird stuff about UFOs and aliens. For the first time in 65 years, the United States has shot something down over our airspace. Not once, but 4 times. And 3 of those 4 things, we have no idea what they are. And people deserve to know what they are. I mean, it's pretty extraordinary. You're launching at least $800,000 missiles off of fighter jets over American airspace. That's a pretty big deal. We need to understand why we did it and what these things are, where they come from, who owns them, who made them, why are they here. And perhaps the explanation is easy, and maybe not. The point is that these are important things that the American people deserve to know and that they deserve to hear directly from the president about. Not a political thing here. Okay, people deserve to know, why are we shooting things down? If it's serious enough to shoot down, it's serious enough for you to know something about it. Look, this is a topic I've been on for a long time, right? Because this is not new. It may sound new, but it really isn't. We have been seeing objects flying over restricted airspace in the United States for a long time now. No one took it seriously because immediately it was about UFOs and flying saucers and aliens. And that's not my concern. My concern is that some other country has developed a capability to monitor and enter our airspace, and that we are not prepared to identify it because they have figured out a way. We're looking for airplanes, we're looking for missiles. We're not looking for objects that don't fit that criteria. And strategic surprise is the way a lot of wars start, and it's the way a lot of wars and conflicts are lost. So these are important questions that need to be answered. But you deserve to hear directly from the president and from the administration, not from spokespeople, and not with double talk and not with unnecessary secrecy. We'll see how this hearing goes. I don't have high expectations.
So with that brings us into this gentleman right here, David Grush. You guys have heard he's been all over the news, all kinds of video clips. I picked the ones that I think kind of paint the picture for everything that's going on, and I'm going to put these things in the best order that I can. So here's what David Grush had to say in just about less than 30 seconds.
In my official duties, I was exposed to human and signals intelligence information concerning foreign adversary, UAP crash retrieval, exploitation and study efforts, adversary views on U.S. legacy program reverse engineering efforts, and U.S.-held audiovisual information related to crash retrieval matters, such as the recovered vehicles and the associated biological material.
That leads us into this lady, Leslie Kean. She's former Senate staffer for Kirk McConnell and was present for classified briefings alongside Marco Rubio about the alien bodies. Take a listen to this quick clip, and hopefully this picture starts to come together for you guys.
Having served for decades on the staff of Congressional Intelligence and Defense Committees, Kirk McConnell, who is standing here today in the back, he was present in classified settings when highly credible sources briefed senators, including Marco Rubio, about recovered non-human bodies.
So I saw somebody say no audio, or no sound. Let me know if my audio went out or if it was just the video you guys didn't hear. And my apologies if you guys didn't get that the audio from the video. So hopefully I'll get some 5x5s from you guys when the light catches. All right, there comes the 5x5 from Autobahn and Sugar Ray Robertson and all that. Okay, so all right, good. Audio is kind of important when it comes to this stuff. So the White House puts FBI UAP PR004 Northeastern orb sighting. This is what one of the things that kind of Jesse Waters was describing, these orbs that are there. I'm not going to, I'll play this right here without it's just outdoor ambience that you hear, but you can see the orbs kind of there behind the trees. You see them kind of moving in tandem, kind of zooms in. I mean, damn, folks, pretty damn. I don't know yet. I'll provide my opinion too, but it takes us to the next one. Ashton Forbes comes out and says General McCaslin told Tom DeLonge why they hid the technology. It was the Cold War. We were trying to avoid nuclear winter. We developed the ultimate deterrent. Take a listen to this.
While we're sitting there, he leans across the table, and this is the very first words that were said to me. It was the Cold War, and every single day we lived under the threat of nuclear war. Every single day we believed and really thought in the deepest part of our souls that nuclear war could happen at any given moment. And then he stops and he goes, and somewhere in those years, and he looked me in the eye, he goes, we found a life form. And everything that we did and every decision that we made with that life form was because of the consciousness at that time.
Okay, there you go. Sorry about that, folks. I was checking something. I hope that worked. All right, so then we go into this next one, right? Kirill Dmitriev, right? We've had him show up on the show a couple times tonight. Dear aliens, as you prepare contact with humanity, please show your omnipotence and goodness by convincing Keir Starmer to resign. No abductions or probing. Just have him understand what people think of him and that he can give hope to the Western civilization by resigning. And he's quote posting Anna Paulina Luna says, "What the heck is happening in the UK? You're Starmer, your people are getting brutally murdered and you're literally doing nothing." And it's even the ones that aren't being murdered, there are being some horrific crimes that are happening to them. But again, these are leaders, government leaders and officials, you know, that are also kind of making light of this. This goes back to, you remember when Trump trolled and it was going to look like alien disclosures, but he was talking about the illegals in our country? Are they trying to remove the shock value from this because it is legitimate, but they don't want it to have the fear factor that maybe the deep state wants? Or are they pushing this out early because maybe it was going to be some Project Blue Beam psyop and they're trying to rug pull it? I mean, you can make an argument either way for all these things. It's there. President Trump. Audio from a secret NASA meeting following the Apollo 16 mission has been released as part of the third batch of UFO files, revealing a discussion about a possible alien base on the moon. This is a thing that Jesse Waters says, that there's even talks about an alien moon base. I have the audio for that right here. So let's take a listen.
Well, we were fortunate. Also, the near side of the moon.
Does the gravity profile have any? Can you correlate?
I've looked at the gravity profile, and it doesn't seem to correlate at all.
We don't.
Actually, the laser data correlates better with. You don't. There's no gravity on the backside. Okay, but on the front side.
Understand.
It correlates pretty well with the laser data, which shows great big hole here in the backside of the moon around Fendigraph, and that's where we get our big hole. But I can't see any scientific justification for connecting the two results.
I will add, they remind you of the gamma ray.
Yes, that's true.
Secondary peak is also at Van de Graaff. I don't know what it means.
Could be an alien star base or something. I don't know. Anyway, the next slide shows the front side of the moon.
Now, my opinion is when he says it could be an alien star base, my opinion is I just think he's being sarcastic. That's kind of my position. But again, we're limited in scope of how much of that conversation we had. But this is one of those ones that I think when you read the transcription of it, it sounds probably more of information from someone in a position of authority. But when you actually hear the audio of it, to me, it just kind of sounds like he's kind of being facetious. I don't know. You guys let me know. But this brings us to this one. This is where it gets gnarly. Are aliens demons? Are they angels? Are they both? Interstellar puts, Lou Elizondo, there are sentient plasma beings or orbs that have some kind of intelligence, almost like a life form. This is the part that actually got my attention more than anything else.
If there is life off of this planet, that is the biggest headline of our lifetime. And that phrase that he just used, plasmoid, whatever, what is he talking about, Lou?
Yeah, he's referring to what some have speculated regarding orbs that have been viewed really since the 1940s during the Foo Fighter incidents, and then later over New Mexico skies, over controlled military airspace. And it seems that, at least in some cases, some of these orbs seem to have some sort of intelligence connected with them. And so rather than just being like, let's say, a probe or a drone, these things have been reported to almost behave and react in some cases as if there was ascribed to it some sort of I hate to say it, but life form. I got you. I was more nuts and bolts guy when I was in the program. My focus was more on actual the physical craft. Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to date myself here, but when I was a kid, you guys remember watching the movie Cocoon? You remember the movie Abyss? Were these movies made from leaked information? Which kind of goes to a comment that former Congressman George Santos is calling for an investigation into Steven Spielberg. I don't have that information for you guys tonight. I'll, if I remember, I'll make a note to show it to you guys on Monday. But he's calling for an investigation of Steven Spielberg regarding the newly released movie Disclosure. Because what George Santos says, he says, and I'm not going to provide information to which one because I'm not trying to violate the very thing I'm telling you to investigate him for. But he says that there's things in those movies that Steven Spielberg is letting out that's classified information. So, of course, now I got to go watch that movie. Shout out to my boy Brad, who just rated the stream. If you guys are not following the guy that just rated, make sure you're following that channel. He's also the guy that put together what I would say is, you know, if not the best, definitely in the top 3 best 9/11 documentaries that are out there. So make sure you guys are giving Brad a solid follow. But again, this stuff is wild, which now takes us here. Representative Eric Burleson says former Brazilian Minister of Defense Aldo Rebelo came forward today and admitted that the Varginha incident was real and that non-human entities and craft were recovered. So now we get the Brazilian government that's providing information into this. Then it takes us to the last two, and then I got a cool little fun video for you guys at the end of this, and we'll get into the Rumble rants. But this is just crazy. Listen, y'all gonna just judge me here, and that's okay. If you all would have hit me 10 years ago when I was a cop, and you would have made me watch this podcast and hang out with you guys in the audience, I would have said you guys are all freaking nuts. You've all lost your minds, and y'all need to go get some medication. That you're absolutely crazy. But here we are. Mainstream media is talking about it. Government officials are talking about it. Government officials from other nations are talking about it. You see information from the most extreme conspiracy theorists to the people that have the most authority in government, all talking about the same thing, which brings us to this little gem. UAP Wixie puts out. The Nordic people somewhat resemble humans, and they have been experimenting with crossbreeding with humans. That takes us into a conversation that we've had on DEF CON and Q After Hours with Josh regarding Epstein, 23andMe, and what was really Epstein really after when he was doing some of these genetic experimentations, and how horrific does that get when it comes to kids, because kids have the cleanest and most uncontaminated DNA that's out there. So take a listen to this. This is just weird.
What Grush has told me, this is what blew my mind, and what he said that happened with Trump. And I'll just tell you this, and just again, I don't know that, I want to preface this by saying, this is not what I believe, this is what I've been told, okay? He said that the Nordic people or the Nordic aliens are like a few hundred years more advanced than we are, but they're not super advanced. They're not like, he said the Greys, whatever is sending the Greys is extremely advanced, like thousands and thousands of years more advanced than us, because it's doing all the anti-gravity stuff, all this crazy stuff that's very highly advanced. And a lot of it is what he says with the Greys is psionic. So they basically don't have physical interfaces. They're using their mind, and that there's an interface that picks up thought, and then that and that's how they operate these vehicles, is out of psionic. But the Nordic people somewhat resemble humans, and they have been experimenting with crossbreeding with humans. And he says some of them, that there are aliens that are crossbreeds living in the world. And I asked him, I go, okay, do they know that they're a crossbreed, or do they, like, how would you know that they are a crossbreed? And he didn't have an answer for that. Like, he didn't know if they knew what, but he said that the briefings he's had talked about them. And he said when Trump was briefed on this topic, because Trump finally had a briefing, and he was in the middle of impeachment, like he was in the middle of being impeached. So he's going through that, and then he had like this existential briefing that just kind of rocked his worldview. He joked in the briefing, whenever they said that there are these half-breeds, he joked that Adam Schiff must be one of them. And so, yeah, empty Schiff.
Listen, look, we can all speculate. I just want to remind you guys to the clip that me and Josh showed you guys during Josh's interview with General Flynn a few years ago, where General Flynn, who I think is a person who is very conscious of the words that he uses, because he understands fifth generation warfare and information more than anybody out there, when he says we have an extraterrestrial government, he said it, not me. That brings us into Uri Geller. If you guys have ever heard conversations with Josh, the source that this guy comes in and uses, he says is reliable. And so let's take a listen to our last clip before we get into Rumble Rants and a cool video on the way out.
My dear friends worldwide, Professor Chaim Eshed, in the photo behind me, with me together here in the museum, was the former head of Israel's Defense Ministry's Space Directorate. Listen to me carefully. The Galactic Federation is in contact, both with the United States and Israel. Very soon, big news. Donald Trump knows about it. It's not under my control, so I cannot tell you when this is going to be revealed fully. You might even see aliens together with world leaders. Wow, this is going to be theologically, historically, religiously, I don't know what to say, archaeologically, a mind-blowing revelation. It's going to be, let me describe it as the biggest nuclear explosion on Earth, positive, or the biggest tsunami. That's how it'll shock you all and the world.
So, my quick thought, since I said I'd provide it at the end, do I think that this is a distraction? I actually don't. What I think is going on is I think there's a lot of things that are being battled all at once. And we're going to make this fast because we have a show starting here in 8 minutes while they're on Badlands, DEFCON 0 tonight, folks. I think we're trying to secure our governments. I think the Sovereign Alliance is trying to secure governments around the world because they are going to disclose that we have aliens, other entities from other planets that are now here to assist us. And that's why we had to get our shit together here on planet Earth with what's going on, because they're probably going to reveal that there is a much more significant threat that exists to humanity that's on its way here. And what a way to bring humanity together, that once we get rid of the deep state that's been trying to compromise our world, but to all come together with our friends from other parts of the universe to prepare for a much bigger threat that's coming our way. I think the picture is going to look more like that. We did have one Rumble Rant that came in. Shout out to Michelle Good7, $20 Rumble Rant. Great show, Alpha. I love having 2 shorter shows. I do too. And this early hour is kind of nice because I'm going to get to bed at a reasonable hour tonight after DEFCON. So with that, I'm going to bring up my last ad. Folks, when you have a chance, the link's down in the description on whatever platform you're watching, neutronicslabs.com. Use promo code ALPHA-IGF, okay? ALPHA-IGF. You're going to get a significant discount. This is the stuff that I've been taking right here. You can see it, although I take the 1,000,000 nanograms one now twice a day, and I'm going to up that to my 3rd dose a day, probably starting sometime next week. It is phenomenal for recovery. It is phenomenal for your romantic life. And yes, ladies, it is not just for working out. They do have a ladies version there. Some of you have already bought it. Go and check it out. So neutronicslabs.com, that link's the first one you'll probably hit in the description, or one of the first ones, and make sure you use that promo code ALPHA-IGF so you can get those significant discounts at the end. Here's the video I was going to show you guys on the way out. Again, do me a solid if you haven't done so already. Push the heart, smash the thumb, leave a comment. I enjoyed this. I hope you guys like Just Alpha 2.0. Hope you guys like the new art, the new graphics. I'll see you guys in a few minutes as I run to the head, shove a piece of pizza down my throat because I'm starving, and jump on DEFCON. Forgive us if we're a minute or 2 late. I'll catch you guys next time. Good night. God bless. And Semper Fi.
It's not about if I can. I'm doing this because I want to.
Would you look at me? I'm setting records.
No!
United States of America.